Hi everyone, I'm Jim Hounshell and welcome back to the Old Radio Revival. Before we start today's restoration, I want to talk about a critical step I always take with every completed radio: testing the signal. When a restored radio finally powers on and I connect an antenna to it, I don't just assume it's working perfectly. I carefully test the signal. I'm listening for something specific, not just noise, not a frustrating hum, not static, but a clear, distinct broadcast, a real radio station coming through with music or voices. If it's just noise, well, I know there's still work to be done. I need to discern if what I'm hearing is genuine or just interference. This practice of testing the signal holds profound spiritual truth. The Bible gives us very clear instruction in 1 John 4:1. Dear friends, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. In our world today, there are countless messages, ideas, and voices claiming to be spiritual, claiming to be from God, or claiming to offer truth and enlightenment. But just like a radio can pick up static or interference, not every message claiming to be from God really is. So, how do we discern the true broadcast from the spiritual noise? How do we test the signal? The answer is simple and powerful. Compare it to Scripture. The Bible is God's unchanging, infallible word, His perfectly aligned, true broadcast. It's our ultimate filter, our reliable tuning fork for spiritual truth. If a message, a teaching, or a claim doesn't align with what the Bible clearly teaches about God, about Jesus, about sin, and about salvation, then it's not the true signal. It's spiritual static. The gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ, is the purest, clearest signal available to humanity. It promises life, forgiveness, an eternal relationship with God. And here's the crucial part: the true gospel will never lead you wrong. But that's only if it's the true one, the one rooted firmly in Scripture. Any deviation, any addition, any subtraction from the biblical gospel introduces distortion and leads to spiritual misalignment. So I urge you to rigorously test the spiritual signals you're receiving in your own life. Don't believe every claim. Don't be swayed by every voice. Instead, compare everything to the unchanging truth of God's Word. Lock into the true gospel and experience the undeniable clarity and power of God's authentic broadcast. Now let's head over to the workbench. Welcome back. Last time, you remember, we were talking about the volume control. We rewound that primary on the antenna coil, and we brought in those weak stations really well. But it wasn't until the loudest setting of the volume control, about the last fourth turn, before they actually started coming in. But then they came in really well and strong. So while you were watching that video, that very long video, and I apologize for that, I did some research, and here's what I found. I went onto one of the forums, and I'm just going to quote this guy, read you what he says. He says the Philco 80 Junior doesn't have a typical volume control as used in later model radios. The 80's, in other words, the Model 80 volume control, is actually a 20K ohm RF attenuator connected directly between the antenna and ground. It shunts RF to ground depending on the setting and resistance of the control. Its wiper connection ties directly to the antenna coil. At maximum resistance, in other words, when we had that volume turned all the way up, you would have maximum RF signal strength applied to the antenna coil. And that's why we were bringing those weak stations in there toward the end. So, long story short, this is operating just as it should, apparently. So we're not going to worry about this anymore. Right now what we're going to do is we are going to take off the tuning capacitor, and it's connected with these three screws. I noticed that one is a modern. I mean, it's so somebody's come in here and updated this, and if I push on this rubber grommet, it's not as hard as the others and dried up looking as the others. Maybe the same on this side. So somebody's come in here and at least put some new grommets on there. But anyways, we're going to take those off, take that off, the tuning capacitor off, and clean it up. First thing I'm going to do though is take off the power cord and get that off there so I don't have to worry about covering it whenever we paint the chassis, and we'll get that out of the way first thing. And there we go. To get that tuning capacitor off there, we're going to have to remove the 4 nuts or bolts, and this one here is behind this switch. I'm not going to be able to get my wrench down in there, so I'm going to have to loosen this up, remove it, probably push it back out of the way so I can get to that 4th one. But let's go ahead and start with these 3. Yeah, that's got two of them. They're fairly new. When those rubber washers, grommets, whatever you want to call them, dry up, your tuning capacitor kind of gets loose and wobbly on the chassis. I noticed it was a little bit. So it probably has to do with these back here because they definitely have not been replaced. I don't know if you can tell, but they're just really hard. You can see them cracked. All right, so let me get a wrench. We'll loosen that, get it out of the way. That is soldered onto the ground. Have to get that loose. Now we can get to it. So there are 3 wires coming from under the chassis that connect to these 3 points. And so I'll need to unsolder those before we can lift this up and out of there. So I'll do that next. I'll also take these 2 wires off of the bulb socket here. We'll tuck these back underneath the chassis so that they don't get paint on them. All right, finally had to snip that one off. All right, so here we go. Didn't remove those wires yet, did I? But here are those grommets underneath this from this side. See how they're all dried up and crumbly? That's what causes the wobble in it. So we'll replace those, get this all cleaned up, painted. Okay, let's take these wires off the bulb socket. So now we got it off there. Now I can take my, just do that right now. Take this in here. Remove this bulb socket. Get it all nice and clean too. So here we go. This has a screw right here. Let's see if my screwdriver will fit in it. Can loosen that up. That way I'll be able to slide this off. Put that aside. Now we can get this cleaned up. So here's how I clean up rusty, nasty parts, no matter what they are. But what I do is take this sonic cleaner. I think my wife uses this occasionally for jewelry, but I use it more often than she does, so it works great. I put a couple of tablespoons of citric acid. I got this off Amazon, big bag of it. It's lasted me a long time. A couple of tablespoons of that in here in water. I dissolve that real well. Then I'll put this tray in there. Put that in there. Shut her down. I'll set the time for it. I just set it at the maximum time. Let it go, and I'll run it 2 or 3 times. I'll find out exactly how long it takes to get this clean and let you know that. But that's the process. So I'm going to set that up now. So I've got my water, the citric acid dissolved in it. I've got my tuning capacitor in here, and the water level is just barely over the top of it here. I really need a bigger one of these, but this will do for now. I'll flip it over after, at some point during this process. Shut the lid. We'll set the timer up to the maximum amount of time, which is looks like 480 seconds, and just let it go. Come back and check on it after a while, see how well it's done. So now I'm taking the wires that were sticking up from here and just tucking them back underneath. I'm going to do the same with the speaker, same with the antenna over here. I was looking at the speaker wire, and the insulation is coming off in several places, and I'm not sure if you have it right here. This wire is exposed. So anyway, I'm going to end up having to replace these wires with something. So anyway, I'm gonna undo them and tuck them under there too. Same with this. Then I'll take these cans off, get them out of the way. Then we'll start cleaning on this chassis. Let's start cleaning it. First, I'll scrape some of this dirt off and vacuum it. And then I'll get a wet rag, wipe it down the best I can. And then we'll put some jelly on it and start eating away at this rust, these rusty spots. And we'll go from there. That's the process anyway. And now I use naval jelly on the rust spots all over. Now we'll let that sit on there and hopefully eat away that rust. Okay, after about 3 hours of sonic cleaning and really soaking, most of that time was just soaking, letting it soak in that citric acid bath. This is what we've got. It's a lot cleaner. All right, so we'll rinse this off, let it dry out, and move on. After about an hour, I wiped all of that jelly off, and then I reapplied it to the spots that were the worst. And it's been setting now for about an hour again. So now I'm going to wipe those off, and that'll probably be all we do on this. All right, next what I think I will do is probably lift this transformer up a bit. So I'll have to unscrew it, lift it up a little bit, see what's under here as far as rust or not. Apparently this thing had been hot before. I'm guessing that
it came from the transformer, but there's kind of a wax buildup along here. And I'm assuming it's probably from the transformer getting hot at some time or another. So anyway, we'll need to make sure we got all the wax off before we can put any paint on it. But I want to lift this up, clean under it, and probably leave it up when I spray paint. But that'll be the next thing I do. And then we'll tape it all off, the areas that we don't want paint on, and get ready to put some paint on it.
You know, I think I can get the shell off of this transformer, and that'll even be better. Instead of trying to get under it, take it off, get all the loose paint off of it, repaint it, get it to looking good. So there's 4 screws here on each corner, and then there are 2 screws that hold the shells to the iron core. So hopefully the wires don't run down through the inner parts of the shell, I guess. Let's find out. Okay, we got the shells off of it. We'll repaint these. I want to show you the transformer. Thought it had gotten hot. It really, not sure if you can see that or not, but it's got a dark streak down it where it does appear to have been very hot. I'm just glad that the wires did not burn in two whenever it did that. What caused it, I'm not sure, but I suspect that it was probably the faulty filter capacitors that caused it then to overheat. That's one reason why you really don't want to put power to these things until you've at least changed out those filter capacitors. You could certainly burn up your power transformer. So now I'll just kind of clean up around this, and we'll start taping this up then. I've cleaned it up a little bit more. I used a steel brush on those areas that had wax kind of on it. Scraped off as much wax as I could, and then I scrubbed it really well with this steel brush. Got it all cleaned up. Gave the whole thing an alcohol bath after that, just to with alcohol on a rag, rubbed it all off, got all the oils and everything off of it, and scuffed up these spots where there was a lot of rust. And now what I'm going to do is plug up these holes. And what I'll do is I'll take some painter's tape and go up underneath. On the ones I can, I'll put tape underneath to cover those up. If I really can't get to them well, and even on these smaller ones, some of these I usually put some cotton, take a little piece of cotton ball stuff in there, just enough to keep the paint from going underneath the chassis. I'll put some newspaper over these, or something over these to protect them from the paint. And then on the tube sockets themselves, I usually use painter's tape. I'll just put tape over them like this. Do the edge with my fingernail, like that.
Get this side. So get it like that. Then I'll take a razor blade. Just go around that edge. You get the idea. Then I can peel off what's on the edge there. But I'll go back and get this a little better. Oh, that's not too bad. Then I'll do that with each one. Keep the paint off the tube sockets. And I'll do that, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like before we paint it. Sometimes these tuning capacitors are all rusted up on this base portion of it, and so I'll even tape this up and spray paint these, but this one cleaned up so well that I think I'm just going to leave this alone. I don't think I need to do anything with this. But I've got the chassis all taped up, got the transformers covered, got this transformer covered, plugged up my holes. So this one is ready to go. It's ready to go out and be painted. Also got these shells from the power transformer cleaned up. Used a wire brush on them, scuffed off the parts that were starting to rust, and gave everything an alcohol bath, before I paint it. But it's ready to go as well. So we'll get these outside and start painting. All right, let's paint this. This is the third coat. This will be the final coat. Probably didn't need 3, but that's what we're going to do. Now we'll paint the shell of that transformer. just put 2 coats on this. I think that's plenty. This just went on really well.
I wanted to show you what kind of paint I used on that. This is what I typically use for the chassis. And then I'll use just a gloss black for the shell of the transformer typically. Now I want to polish up the couple of capacitors that were on top of the chassis. This tube shield cover. Get those all shiny, and then we'll put everything back on the chassis and get it all wired up and see what it looks like.
Got everything polished up. Now we'll start getting everything back on the chassis. Okay, I believe I've got everything back in place. I've got the wires all soldered back where they're supposed to go. The only exception is the external antenna wire and the ground wire. I cut those off because they were just so frayed. So I'm going to get some, I'm going to have to replace that. The other thing I'm going to have to replace is the speaker wire. It is just in such bad shape. I really want to find some wire that is cloth covered. This was green and white if I remember right. I'm going to do some research, see what's out there anyway. I think we're going to go ahead and stop here for today. It's starting to look pretty good. But the next step, I think, is to work on the cabinet. I do have some stickers that I need to replace on here. There was also a number on the chassis on the front, and we'll do our best to stamp that back on there. But it's coming together. I hope you're enjoying the series, and I hope you'll subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.